Hello and welcome to you all via this YouTube channel. I am Prince Mishra and we have started a series where I am discussing the last 10 to 12 years geography questions that has been asked in UPSC CSC Prelims. So in this question answer series, the objective is to just sensitize you through the main area, the priority area that you should not miss while going for the prelims examination. So to just boost up your revision, just boost up your preparation, I have brought this series. So in last session we have discussed topics related to the geomorphology and general geography and oceanography. In this session, some of the topic that we will take up is related to the atmosphere, temperature, atmospheric pressure, wind, humidity, cloud, rainfall, air mass, front, tropical cyclone, temperate cyclone, world climate, soil. Primarily this session is revolving around the climatology and the biogeography. Climatology happens to one of the very important area for the UPSC CSC prelims. Roughly, always remember that if there will be a whatever the number of question, it can be 10, 15, 20, 35 to 40% questions happens to be from the climate. And the climate requires some conceptual clarity. So if you are not having the conceptual clarity, if you will just try to mug up the things will not be good for the climate. And the climate is also very much related with the environment and the biogeography. So अगर आप climate को ठीक से नहीं समझेंगे, if you are not having the clarity in case of climate, तो आपको हमेशा से ही environment जो geographical environment है, उसके भी question आप नहीं कर पाएंगे, and also you will face problems related to the biogeography. So through the question I will also discuss some of the important concepts related to the climate. So let's begin with the question. So the first question, normally the temperature decreases with the increase in height from the earth's surface because, this question has been asked in 2012, the atmosphere can be heated upward only from the earth's surface. There is more moisture in the upper atmosphere. The air is less dense in the upper atmosphere. Now, this is related to the general change of temperature through altitude. So, our atmosphere is present, our atmosphere is having the different layers. So, gases have been in our atmosphere assembled in such a manner that we have different layers. What are the different layers? The lowest layer of our atmosphere is troposphere. Above of troposphere we have stratosphere. Above of stratosphere we have mesosphere. Above of mesosphere we have thermosphere. Now the general extent of this troposphere is not same. So it will have a variation. So over the poles, it's extended around 6 to 8 kilometer, whereas over equator it is around 16 to 18 kilometer. Now beyond this troposphere, up to 50 kilometer we have stratosphere, 50 to 80 kilometer we have mesosphere, beyond 80 kilometer we have thermosphere. So this is thermosphere, this is stratosphere, this is stratosphere, this is mesosphere, and this is troposphere. This is the general arrangement of different layers in our atmosphere. Now due to the presence of different layers, there will be different phenomena that takes place. Most of the phenomena, climatic phenomena, atmospheric phenomena will be limited to this troposphere. Now the question arises that why the troposphere's extent is different over the poles and different over the low latitude or nearby the equator. Troposphere simply associated with the heating. Now very interestingly, in our atmosphere, the source of heat is obviously the sunlight. But you need to remember that heating in our Earth's atmosphere happens from the below. It is like, first of all, sunlight is coming, insolation is coming, and this insolation primarily will be taken by the Earth's surface, and now this Earth's surface will re-radiate. And when this Earth's surface is radiating, then our atmosphere will get heated up. So this is the basic heating mechanism that you need to understand. You need to remember. So heating in our atmosphere happens from below. That is the reason why when you will go in higher altitude, जब भी आप माउंटेन में जाएंगे, जब भी आप किसी भी हाई एल्टीट्यूड की जगह पे जाएंगे, you must be knowing that temperature is lesser. Temperature less क्यों है? Because the temperature decreases with increasing height. So in our atmosphere generally, temperature decreases with increasing height. So this is general characteristic. Now why this temperature is decreasing when you are going up? It is mainly because you are moving away from the heat source. So because you are moving away from the heat source, simply the temperature decreases with increasing height. The rate of decrease of temperature, rate of change I am writing, rate of change of temperature, क्योंकि आप ऊपर जा रहे हैं, temperature कम हो रहा. So let's say after 1 kilometer it is 5 degree lesser, 6 degree lesser after 2 kilometer. So that is rate. So rate of change of temperature is simply known as lapse rate. So lapse rate is change of temperature, rate of change of temperature. And because this is a normal phenomena, that is why it is also referred as normal lapse rate. In our atmosphere, the normal lapse rate is around 6.5 degrees Celsius per kilometer. This is the normal lapse rate. This normal lapse rate is present in the environment. That is why it is also sometimes referred as environmental lapse rate. So this environmental lapse rate, normal lapse rate is nothing but rate of change of temperature when you are going up. तो इसी वजह से जब भी आप माउंटेन में जाएंगे तो आप देखेंगे कि वहां का टेम्परेचर कम है, क्योंकि आप माउंटेन की हाइट, किसी भी हिली एरिया की हाइट सरफेस से सी लेवल से ज्यादा है, एंड इट इज बिकॉज हीट सोर्स इज बिलो. तो हीट सोर्स आपका यहां पे है. सो इफ यू आर मूविंग हियर, ऑब्वियसली यू आर मूविंग अवे फ्रॉम द हीट सोर्स. द मोर यू विल बी नियर बाय द हीट सोर्स, द मोर टेम्परेचर यू विल हैव. सो हीटिंग हैपेंस फ्रॉम द बिलो. So obviously this statement is correct. So atmosphere heat is from the below. Now next is there is more moisture in the upper atmosphere. So it is one thing that you need to understand. As far as moisture is concerned, primarily the moisture is more or less like a humidity. So in climatic language, the term that we will use for the moisture is the humidity. Humidity is simply the water holding capacity. So more water holding capacity of the air will be, the more moisture will be there. Water holding capacity of air depends on the temperature. So in simple language, higher the temperature or warmer the air, it will hold more moisture. So warmer air will hold more moisture, and the cooler air will have less moisture. So in simple, if the air is rising, when the air is rising, so obviously the temperature of air is decreasing. So the air is comparatively cooler. So if the air is comparatively cooler, so it's obvious that its water holding capacity is lesser, and because its water holding capacity is lesser, that is why in above atmosphere the moisture content will be lesser. Moisture or water vapor in our atmosphere is highly variable. So water vapor you will not find same everywhere, and that is the reason why water vapor will be higher in case of low latitude above the equator. So above the equator, water vapor आपको ज़्यादा मिलेगा, but as you will go in the polar area, almost there will be a dry condition will prevail. So almost there will be absence of the water vapor. So this statement that there is more moisture in upper atmosphere is incorrect. So in upper atmosphere there will be obviously lesser moisture, variation of the moisture. So statement 2 is incorrect. So now you are left with 1, 1 and 3. The air is less dense in the upper atmosphere. Obviously the density of air depends upon different thing, but one of the very important aspect of the density is the pressure. So in above atmosphere, the particles are very rarefied. So particles are very rarefied means the pressure is very lesser. So atmospheric pressure is less. It simply means that density of the air is comparatively lesser. So air is less dense in the upper atmosphere is correct statement. Density will be more in case of lower atmosphere. More the density, more will be the collision and cohesion, and that is why the temperature will also be higher. So the air less dense in the upper atmosphere, that is right. So in this case the answer will be C, that is 1 and 3. So answer will be C, that is 1 and 3. Alright. Moving to the next question. A layer in the Earth's atmosphere called ionosphere facilitates radio communication. Why? Now we'll have a brief discussion about the layers. So we were discussing, we have a different layers. So troposphere is there, stratosphere is there, mesosphere is there, thermosphere is there. As far as troposphere is concerned, most of the climatological phenomena is limited to the troposphere. Climatological phenomena in the sense like formation of the cyclone, formation of the clouds. So cloud, all these things associated with the atmosphere will be limited to troposphere. So majority of the cloud formation, cyclone movement, air mass, everything will be related to the troposphere. In troposphere, temperature is decreasing with increasing height. Above of troposphere lies the stratosphere. Now this stratosphere, the most important characteristic feature of the stratosphere is presence of ozone. And in fact, due to presence of ozone, this layer is also known as ozonosphere. So this layer is also known as ozonosphere due to presence of ozone. Ozone gets naturally formed as well as naturally destroyed. So natural formation and natural destruction of ozone happens, and because of that there will be a lots of chemical activity, chemical reaction will be going on in this ozone layer, that is stratosphere. That is the reason why this stratosphere is also sometimes referred as chemosphere. Now as far as the concentration of the ozone is there, ozone will be present 15 to 50 kilometer, but majority of the ozone will be limited in the lower side, 20 to 30 kilometers. So 20 to 30 kilometer we have a greater concentration of ozone. In this ozone or in this stratosphere, generally the clouds are less, or you can say clouds are not, but it is not like no clouds, because sometimes there will be some of the vertical clouds. Vertical clouds can be in lower latitude, vertical clouds can be in mid latitude, vertical cloud can be in higher latitude. Like in polar area there is a very famous cloud, polar stratospheric cloud, PSC cloud, and in fact PSC clouds are very much associated with the destruction of ozone. Destruction of ozone. Now this presence of ozone, layer of ozone is very important for humans. So it is very important for our survival. The sunlight's insolation that we are receiving, that is insolation, in that insolation there will be UV rays also. Now some of the UV rays very harmful, so this ozone saves us from harmful radiation. It obstructs that harmful radiation. But if the ozone layer will not be there, that harmful radiation will fall, will come on the ground, and it will causes lots of destruction. So there can be a chances of cataract, there will be chances of cancers, there will be chances of some of the effect over the agricultural activity, crops. So ozone is very useful. Ozone is very useful, but due to some of the man-made activity, over the period of time, ozone has been destroyed. So when ozone is thinning, the thinning of ozone is simply referred as ozone depletion. So it is like, here you will have ozone. So in some of the area, there has been thinning of ozone. Now if the thinning of ozone will be there, it is like some of the area less ozone is there. But in some area, thinning will be so extensive, the destruction will be so extensive that the whole ozone from that area has been almost completely gone. So this referred as ozone hole. So ozone hole is a phenomena that is more prevalent in case of higher latitude polar area, in case of North Pole, in case of South Pole, and in fact it is more severe in case of South Pole, that is Antarctica. So the region behind this ozone hole is nothing but the presence of polar stratospheric clouds. So polar stratospheric clouds are associated with the ozone hole destruction. Now polar stratospheric cloud is associated with the stratosphere. So the point that you need to remember, generally stratosphere will not have the cloud, but yes, it can have some of the vertical cloud. Coming to the mesosphere, one more thing, due to the presence of ozone, what will happen? This ozone is capable of absorbing some of the sunlight. So because it is capable of absorbing some of the insolation, so in this layer temperature will increases. So in lower layer of atmosphere, temperature will decreases with increasing height. So temperature decreases with increasing height in case of troposphere, but again the temperature will increases in case of ozone sphere, in case of stratosphere, due to presence of ozone. And this ozone layer is also very preferable for the air transport. So for the air transport, this ozone stratosphere is very much preferred. Mesosphere will not have the much climatic importance, atmospheric importance, but the only thing is that here some of the celestial objects that are coming, so they will get burned. So this mesosphere is there, and mesosphere again temperature will decreases with the increasing height. The lowest temperature in our atmosphere will be recorded at the boundary of mesosphere. So lowest temperature will be recorded at the boundary of mesosphere. Beyond the mesosphere, we have the thermosphere, and within this thermosphere, in lower layer, 80 to around 800 kilometer, we have presence of some of the ions. These ions are capable of absorbing some of the sunlight. So because these are capable of absorbing some of the sunlight, temperature will increases. So the sequence of temperature, if you will look out, will be like, here temperature decreases with increasing height, here again temperature increases with increasing height, here again temperature decreases with increasing height, and in the thermosphere temperature again increases with increasing height. So this is the general pattern of the change of temperature. Also, because in thermosphere we have a presence of ions, and these ions will be very useful in reflecting some of the radio waves. So these are very useful for the radio communication. So the presence of ozone causes the reflection of radio waves to the earth. Radio waves, so it is talking about the ionosphere. So in ionosphere, ozone is not there. Ozone is present in the stratosphere. So this statement is incorrect. It is like the presence of ions. So it is like this. So this statement is correct. Radio wave have very long wavelength, that is correct. So the answer will be B only. Now moving to the next question. If a tropical rainforest is removed, it does not regenerate quickly as compared to a tropical deciduous forest. This is because, now as far as tropical rainforest is concerned, it is associated with the equatorial climate. So this is associated with the equatorial climate. As far as climate is concerned, it's always suggestive to prepare the climate with the help of chart. It will be easy for you to remember and recall. So nearby equator we have equatorial climate. So around 0 degree to 10 degree you will have a equatorial climate. Then between 10 degree to 30 degree in eastern side we have the monsoon climate. Monsoon climate is also present in our country. Then interior part we have the Sudan climate, savanna climate. And then we have hot desert. Then between 30 to 45 degree eastern side we have the China type of climate. This China type of climate is also referred as Gulf type of climate, Natal type of climate. And then we have steppe, midland, mid-latitude grassland. And then we have the Mediterranean climate. Then between 45 to 65 degree latitude on the eastern side we have cool temperate east margin climate, which is also sometimes referred as Laurentian climate. Then we have very famous Siberian climate, and we have British climate. Above 65 degree we have polar climate, tundra climate. Siberian climate is also sometimes popularly known as taiga climate. So this is also sometimes popularly known as taiga climate. Now, related with this climate, we have also the vegetation. So like equatorial climate is associated with the presence of equatorial rainforest. As far as equatorial rainforest is concerned, this equatorial rainforest happens to one of the very best developed forest on this planet. Equatorial forest will have a very important characteristic. What are the important characteristics this equatorial forests are there? First of all, these equatorial climates are very tall. So we have very tall, very dense canopy, and canopy is so dense that almost it will not allow the sunlight to fall on the ground. That is why the ground will not have that much vegetation. But they also have the epiphytic. So trees will have 3 layers. Now, equatorial rainforests are representative of climax vegetation. Climax vegetation is like a last level of vegetation. So climax vegetation is last level of vegetation in the ecological succession. So in ecological succession, the last level of succession is your climax. Now the question arises that why this climax, or why once this forest will get destroyed, tree will get destroyed, then again new trees, why that is not achieving this climax? Over the period of time you need to understand the soils of equatorial rainforest is not that much fertile. In fact, if you will look out this climate, you will find we have 2 of the places, one equatorial climate and one is Siberia, a taiga climate. These 2 climates we have one of the best forest. So these 2 places we have one of the best forest, but both the places we have soil that is not that much fertile. Equatorial climate will have this feature, the soil is not that much fertile. That is the reason throughout the globe, अगर आप सभी जगह पे देखेंगे तो इक्वेटोरियल क्लाइमेट में जो लोग हैं, द पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी इज वेरी लो. मोस्ट पीपल यू विल हैव पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी लो, population density is low. And the other very important characteristic, most of the people living in this zone happens to be the tribals. And what agricultural practicing they are practicing? So primarily they are practicing shifting cultivation. So question arises, why shifting cultivation? So it is not like that soil is fertile but still they are practicing shifting. Shifting cultivation they are practicing because soil is not that much fertile. Now the question arises, why the soil is not fertile? One very important thing that you need to remember is because humus content of the soil is very high. Now humus content of the soil is very high. Because of that, what happens when most of humus content earlier was very high, and here you will have a huge bacteria. So there will be a very large scale bacterial presence. Now when the new trees, leaves and plants are getting died, so plant, leaves, dead animals, once they are dying, through that only the humus content will get enriched. But over the period of time, due to presence of such a huge large number of bacteria, they are transforming the material. So it is not like that the material is not present, base material is present, but the bacteria is transforming the material into humus, but that amount is not sufficient for those bacteria itself. So they are eating the humus itself. Ultimately, the soil will have a deficiency of the humus, or you can say the upper layer of the soil is getting leached out. So humus एक part है, दूसरा part है क्योंकि इस area में rainfall बहुत ज़्यादा है. So leaching is also very much prevalent. So leaching as well as humus. So ultimately the soil is not that much fertile. So of course, if a tropical rainforest is removed, it does not regenerate quickly as compared to tropical deciduous forest. So this is because of soil of rainforest is deficient in nutrients. Alright, moving to next question. One of the question that has been asked in 2011. Westerlies in southern hemisphere are stronger and persistent than in the northern hemisphere. Why? So this question is associated with the wind. So let's have a brief discussion of the wind. As far as wind is concerned, wind is nothing but it is the horizontal movement of air. So wind is horizontal movement of air due to the pressure gradients. So whenever there will be a pressure gradient is like the difference of pressure. So whenever there will be a difference of pressure, so air from the area of high pressure to area of low pressure will travel, and when this air is traveling horizontally, so this horizontally moving air from the area of high pressure to low pressure is simply known as the wind. Depending upon the pressure distribution, because as far as pressure distribution on the earth surface is concerned, we have equatorial low pressure, we have subtropical high pressure, subtropical high pressure, we have subpolar low pressure, subpolar low pressure, and we have polar high pressure. This is simply referred as the pressure belts. So total we have 7 pressure belts on the earth surface. Out of this 7 pressure belt, if you will look out this equatorial low pressure, polar high pressure and polar high pressure, these 3 pressure belts are thermally induced. Thermally induced pressure belt, we call it as thermal low or thermal high. Like what? Let's say over equatorial area. So in over equatorial area, we have a very high heat. So due to high heat, air is becoming warm and this warm air is rise. So because air is becoming warm and the warm air is rising, leaving less air on the ground. So over the ground, less air will be there. Because of that, the pressure of the ground will be lesser. So over the ground, we have a less pressure because of the high temperature. So we call it as thermal low. So it is also referred as thermal low. Now over polar area there will be a very high intense coldness. So due to presence of high coldness, what will happen? The cold air, nature of the cold air happens to be very heavier. Now this cold air will sink. Ultimately over the ground there will be a huge amount of air. So the atmospheric pressure or the weight of air will be high. So it is like thermal high. So it is a thermal high. So when we are writing thermal high, you need to understand that pressure will be high because of thermal region. When we are writing thermal low, means pressure will be low because of thermal, because of temperature. So we have three pressure belts that are thermal, high and low. Now, if we will look out subpolar area, so subpolar area temperature is still very low. If the temperature is still very low, so air should be heavier and air should sink. But ultimately here we are experiencing the low pressure. So it is not the thermal low, rather it is a dynamic low. Similarly, in case of southern hemisphere, we have a dynamic low. Not only that, hold on. This subpolar low pressure, dynamic low. Now, if you will look out the subtropical area is an area, a zone where temperature is still very high. So, temperature is still very high, so pressure should be low. But again, we are experiencing high pressure. So, it is also a dynamic high. Dynamic high. Sorry. So we have total 7 pressure belts. 4 pressure belts are the dynamic induced pressure belts and the 3 pressure belts are the thermally induced pressure belt. What is the cause of this dynamic induced pressure belt? Because earlier the model that has been propagated, that model was like a unicellular model. Unicellular model has been first presented by the Hadley. Later on, we have a model which is referred as tricellular model. In the tricellular model, it is being discussed that air is not only controlled by the heating and cooling, rather it is also being controlled by the behavior, how the movement is happening. So wherever you are witnessing that we have a high pressure, just remember that in this zone definitely temperature is high, but in spite of having high temperature, air is sinking. तो अगर air आपकी sink कर रही तो area will have more air and more air means high pressure. Here subpolar low pressure, in subpolar area temperature is still low, but in spite of having temperature is still low, air is rising. So if air is rising means lots of air is leaving from that place, so ultimately low pressure. Now the question arises that why air is descending in this zone and why air is rising in this zone. So that is because of Earth's rotation. So Earth is a dynamic object. Earth is a dynamic body. So it is not like it is a stationary. So Earth is continuously rotating. Because of this continuous rotation, there will be a pseudo force on the Earth, and this pseudo force has been studied by the very famous Coriolis, and later on it has been theorized by the Ferrel. So it is referred as Coriolis force. Coriolis force is a pseudo force that is active on the Earth's surface, and most of the moving objects get affected by the Coriolis force. All the moving object in the northern hemisphere gets deflected rightward, whereas in the southern hemisphere it gets deflected leftward, irrespective of its movement direction. So all the moving object will get deflected rightward in the northern hemisphere, leftward in the southern hemisphere, and that is the effect of Coriolis. And because of this Coriolis effect, we have the dynamically induced pressure belt. So we have the 3 pressure belts that are thermally induced and 4 pressure belts that are dynamically induced because of the Coriolis effect. Ultimately what will happen? We have the different pressure. Now different pressure means there will be pressure gradient. So like in case of equatorial low pressure, Subtropical high pressure, subtropical high pressure. Now because the pressure gradient, as I said, the moment you will have a pressure gradient, so the air horizontally will start moving from the areas of high pressure to areas of low pressure. तो ये प्रेशर ग्रेडियंट की वजह से एयर का मूवमेंट स्टार्ट हो जाएगा एरियाज ऑफ हाई प्रेशर टू एरियाज ऑफ लो प्रेशर, नॉर्दर्न हेमिस्फीयर, सदर्न हेमिस्फीयर. सिमिलरली एरियाज ऑफ हाई प्रेशर टू एरियाज ऑफ सब पोलर लो प्रेशर, यहां पे भी एक मूवमेंट स्टार्ट होगा. एंड इन केस ऑफ पोलर एरिया ऑल्सो देयर विल बी अ मूवमेंट. So 3 sets of movement will start, and these 3 sets of movement, that is horizontal movement, is simply known as the wind. And these winds are, because they are blowing throughout the globe, that are referred as global winds, planetary winds. Also these winds are blowing throughout the year, that is why they are also referred as the permanent wind. So global wind, planetary winds, permanent winds. And so we have a 3 sets of the wind. Between subtropical high pressure to equatorial low pressure, we have a wind which we referred as a trade winds. So this is trade wind. Then we have between subtropical high to subpolar low pressure, in both the northern hemisphere as well as southern hemisphere, and these winds are simply referred as westerlies. Ultimately, we have a polar area also, so the air is moving from the polar high pressure to polar low pressure, polar subpolar low pressure, and this is polar easterlies. Polar easterlies. So we have these 3 sets of the wind: trade winds, westerlies, as well as polar easterly. These trade winds are also referred as north easterly trade and south easterly trade. So within the tropical region, primarily we have the trade winds, subtropical high to equatorial low. Within the temperate zone, primarily we have the westerlies, and then in polar area we have the polar easterly. Now westerlies nature generally happens to be that westerlies are blowing both in north and south, but westerlies will be comparatively higher, much stronger in case of southern hemisphere. Because of this nature, this westerly is also named differently. So this westerly is named like furious 40s, roaring 40s, furious 50s, shrieking 60s. So all these names have been just given by the sailors. Now the question arises that why the westerlies are very strong in case of southern hemisphere. So westerlies are strong in southern hemisphere not because of the Coriolis. Coriolis is stronger, that is fine, there is no doubt about it, but Coriolis has no variation depending upon the hemisphere. So it is not like in northern Coriolis is more effective, southern Coriolis is less effective. Coriolis varies. So one of the characteristic I already have explained to you about the Coriolis, that is winds get deflected rightward in northern hemisphere, in north, and leftward in south. The other characteristic of Coriolis is that Coriolis is directly related with the speed. So higher the speed, higher will be the Coriolis effect. Stronger the wind, stronger will be the movement, stronger will be the deflection. So if we are running, बस चल रही हैं, ट्रेन चल रही हैं, तो उस पर भी कोरियोलिस का इफेक्ट आएगा. लेकिन अगर गाड़ियां चल रही हैं उस पर कोरियोलिस का इफेक्ट कम आएगा. बट उसी के कंपैरिजन में इफ वी आर फायरिंग अ बुलेट, तो क्योंकि बुलेट की स्पीड बहुत ज्यादा रहेगी, तो दैट विल गेट इंपैक्टेड मच बाय द कोरियोलिस. सो कोरियोलिस इफेक्ट इज रिलेटेड विद द स्पीड. कोरियोलिस इफेक्ट हैज नथिंग टू डू विद द हेमिस्फीयर. नाउ westerlies in southern hemisphere are stronger and persistent than in northern hemisphere. Why? So the first option, it is southern hemisphere has less land mass as compared to northern hemisphere. It's correct, because in southern hemisphere the oceans are vast. Due to the vast ocean, what will happen? The obstruction will be lesser. और obstruction less होगा तो speed ज्यादा होगी. So this is a right statement. Coriolis force is higher in southern hemisphere as compared to northern. So as I said, Coriolis force has nothing to do with the hemisphere. So it is a incorrect. So answer will be obviously A. Now moving to the next question. What could be the main reasons for the formation of African and Eurasian desert belt? Now in general, be it your African, be it your Eurasian, as far as desert is concerned, just refer this climate. So if you will refer this climate, you will find as far as desert climate is present between 10 to 30 degree. So the general distribution of the desert is 10 to 30 degree and the western side of the continent. So why the most of the hot deserts are located between 15 to 30 degree latitude and the western side of the continent? As far as desert is concerned, there are few reasons why most of the deserts are located in this zone. You need to remember. The first very important reason is the presence of subtropical high pressure. Subtropical high pressure I already have explained. This subtropical high pressure is dynamic high. So subtropical high pressure is not thermally induced pressure, dynamically induced. Dynamic कैसे हुआ? So Coriolis effect. Coriolis effect क्या है? It is associated with the rotation of the earth. So subtropical high pressure. The second reason, most of these deserts are in the vicinity of cold ocean current. So most of these deserts are in the vicinity of cold ocean current. Like nearby California current, you will find desert. Nearby Peruvian current, Humboldt current, you will find desert. Canaries current, you will find desert. Then you will have Venezuela current. So nearby the Venezuela, you will have the Namib desert. Canaries, Sahara desert. California, you will have Mojave desert, Chihuahuan desert. Then you will have the Peruvian current, Humboldt current, very famous Atacama desert. So lots of deserts are located nearby the cold ocean current. Now the question arises that how the cold ocean currents are affecting the deserty condition, arid condition. Due to the presence of cold ocean current, what will happen? The temperature in that area will be comparatively, air will become cooler. Now once the air is becoming cooler, it is like In desert area already temperature is high, so air is warm comparatively, but over the period of time the lower side of the air will get cooled up, and because the lower side of the air will get cooled up, so there will be a temperature inversion, and temperature inversion will produce arid condition. But yes, temperature inversion is capable of producing the fog, and sometimes the fog will be very dense fog, very high level fog. So because of that, once the fog will get cleared, so there will be some form of the drizzling. That is the reason why in the coastal area of the deserts you will witness in the morning time drizzling. So that drizzling is associated with the temperature inversion. But in general, there will be a cold ocean current in most of the hot deserts. Other than this, wind plays very important role. Now if you will look out the monsoon, this entire belt of 10 to 30 degree, this entire belt of 10 to 30 degrees lies in the zone of trade winds. So this entire belt is lying in the zone of trade winds, and the trade winds are blowing from the east to west. So when the trade winds are hitting the eastern side of the coast, eastern side of the continents, they will be onshore. But as they will keep on moving away from this eastern side, they will become more and more offshore, specifically when they will come out with the western side. Also, the moisture that this air is carrying, the wind is carrying, the moisture amount of the wind will keep on decreasing as you will move from monsoon to Sudan to hot desert. तो इसीलिए अगर आपको रेनफॉल भी इन सिंपल वर्ड अगर आपको समझना हो तो जस्ट रिमेंबर दैट इन दिस क्लाइमेट जहां पे हमारा डिवीजन है, जहां पे डिवीजन नहीं है तो यहाँ पे ऑलमोस्ट थ्रू आउट द प्लेस, थ्रू आउट द कॉन्टिनेंट वी विल एक्सपीरियंस मोर और लेस सिमिलर रेनफॉल. बट हियर यू विल फाइंड इन केस ऑफ मानसून क्लाइमेट रेनफॉल विल बी मोर. सूडान सवाना में जाएंगे तो रेनफॉल और कम होगी, हॉट डेजर्ट्स में जाएंगे तो रेनफॉल ऑलमोस्ट बहुत कम हो जाएगी, नेग्लिजिबल हो जाएगी. सो दैट इज द बिकॉज ऑफ ऑफशोर नेचर ऑफ द विंड. देयर विल बी वन मोर रीजन, सम ऑफ दीज deserts are also lying in the rain shadow zone. So combinedly all this plays important role in the formation of deserts. So it is located in the subtropical high pressure, correct? It is under the influence of cold ocean current. So this statement is incorrect. So answer will be A. Moving to next question. The jet aircrafts fly very easily and smoothly in the lower stratosphere. What could be the appropriate expansion? What could be the appropriate explanation? So explanation that could be there are no clouds or water vapor in the lower stratosphere. As far as clouds are concerned, I made it very clear that generally clouds are not there, but it is not like that there will be no clouds. So when it comes to the no clouds, so that is not the case. So it is not correct. Then this one, no clouds or water vapor. Then there are no vertical winds in the lower atmosphere. So as I said that wind is vertical movement of air can be there, but the winds are not there. So if they are simply referring vertical winds, so that is particularly incorrect. Some of the vertical wind will be there. So if they are writing like there are almost absence of vertical winds, so that can be correct. But when they are writing there are no, so this is a kind of extreme statement. So that is the reason why the answer will be D, that is neither 1 nor 2. Moving to the next question. Which one of the following is the characteristic climate of the tropical savanna region? So again look out the climate. So this question is associated, this climatic classification अगर आप इस तरीके से याद करेंगे, and if you will try to link the climatic classification with the vegetation, with the biome, with the soil, with the some of the other important features of the world, you will find it immensely useful. तो इससे आप बहुत सारे क्वेश्चन सॉल्व कर सकते हैं if you want. This climatic classification is going to be very important. So this climatic classification is going to be very important for you in your revision. So Sudan savanna climate. Now if you will look out the Sudan savanna climate is an interior climate. So first of all you need to understand, as you will go from this monsoon, Sudan, hot desert, so the amount of rainfall will be lesser. This is interiority, so interior climate. Amount of rainfall will be comparatively lesser as compared to monsoon. Here in case of Sudan savanna, there will be a season. So there will be a presence of some of the seasons like dry condition and wet. So dry and wet will be both there. So it is not like complete desert. Savanna characteristic, one very important characteristic, that this is primarily known for the grasses. The vegetation as far as forest is concerned very less. Majority of the vegetation will be the grasses. And this grasses is having a very important characteristic. During the dry condition, the grass leaves will become very dry, and over the period of time they will witness the particularly loss of this leaves because of the particularly there will be a forest fire. So Sudan savanna climate is representative of the forest fire. So it experienced forest fire. Also these grasses are very tall. So tall grasses are there, and these tall grasses are sometimes could be very tall. That is why they are referred as the elephant grasses. Sudan savanna is also famous for the hunting. So because these grasses are helpful for both the hunters as well as both prey and predator. So this Sudan savanna climate is also very famous, popularly known as the big game country. Anyway, now coming to the question. As far as the savanna region is concerned, rainfall throughout the year, that is characteristic of your equatorial climate. So this is incorrect. Rainfall in winter only. Out of all this climate, always remember, as far as rainfall is winter is concerned, so there is only one climate that is known for the winter rainfall, and that is Mediterranean climate. So Mediterranean climate is known for the winter rainfall. It's a important characteristic, unique characteristic associated with the Mediterranean. बाकी भी क्लाइमेट में होगी, ऐसा नहीं कि विंटर रेनफॉल केवल लेकिन बाकी क्लाइमेट में विंटर रेनफॉल के साथ साथ समर भी होगी. मेडिटेरेनियन केवल एक ऐसा क्लाइमेट है जहां पे विंटर रेनफॉल होगी. वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रीजन विंटर रेनफॉल क्यों होगी? बिकॉज इन जनरल दिस मेडिटेरेनियन शुड बी अंडर द इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ वेस्टर्ली. But in case of summer season, the westerly will move northward. So this region will be under the effect of the trade winds. And when in winter season, again with the shifting of sun आपका नीचे जाएगा. With the shifting of the sun, this area will be again under the influence of the westerly. And once it will be westerly, so westerly will be onshore. Also, this is the time when there will be a formation of the temperate cyclone, because the winter season is very favorable condition for the formation of the cold front. So frontal rainfall is very popular in case of Mediterranean. So this rainfall in winter only is also incorrect. Then extremely short dry season. So dry season is not that much short. So that is also incorrect. A definite dry and wet season. So this will be the main characteristic of savanna climate. Moving to next question. Which of the following is our unique characteristic of equatorial forest? So as I said, equatorial climate is associated with the equatorial forest or simply the rain forest. Now what are the characteristics? Presence of tall, closely set trees with crowns forming a continuous canopy. So it's a correct. Coexistence of large number of species, that is also correct. Presence of numerous variety of epiphyte. Epiphyte is your middle layer that depends on the original tree. So that is also correct. So the answer will be D, that is 1, 2 and 3. These are the questions that are regularly being repeated. So continuously the question will be asked in one form, other form. तो कभी statement से पूछ लिया, कभी they will ask the features of the equatorial climate, sometime they will ask related like this. Alright, moving to the next question. Annual range of temperature in the interior of the continent is high as compared to coastal area. What are the reasons? Always remember, again, look out this climate. Here, out of all the climates you can see, 3 climates are interior climate. Within the monsoon also there will be interior, like in India, Delhi is there, Jaipur is there, Lucknow is there, Patna is there, Chandigarh is there. These are the places that are away from the coastal area. So, Delhi में अगर आप देखेंगे, so in Delhi, the winter temperature can go up to 2 degrees Celsius. And in summer temperature can go up to 51-52 degrees Celsius. So there is a huge temperature range. वहीं पे अगर आप विशाखापट्टनम का देखेंगे, मुंबई का देखेंगे, तो winter temperature very rarely going below the 14 degree, or summer temperature is also not going beyond 38 degrees. So the range is lesser. Now why this anomaly? So this anomaly is associated with the heating and cooling. This anomaly is associated with the heating and cooling. First of all, land gets heated quickly as well as it gets cooled quickly. So जैसे ही समर सीजन आया तो लैंड विल गेट वेरी मच हीटेड, तो टेम्परेचर बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ जाएगा. जैसे ही विंटर आया तो टेम्परेचर बहुत ही कम हो जाएगा. Whereas oceans are going to have very slow cooling, slow heating. Now because of this slow cooling, slow heating, there will always be having a difference of temperature between the land and sea. तो कोस्टल एरिया में, ओशियन में तो ऑलरेडी heating and cooling will be slow, but the area that is nearby the coast, so in coastal area will experience oceanic effect. Now what is this oceanic effect? This oceanic effect is nothing but it is a sea breeze and land breeze. So this oceanic effect is nothing but it is a sea breeze as well as land breeze. Now if you will look out, the annual range of temperature in the interior of the continent is high as compared to coastal area. So thermal difference between land and water. So obviously it is because variation in altitudes between continents, variation in altitude between continents and ocean, altitude का कोई सवाल ही नहीं उठता. Presence of strong winds in the interior, that is not correct. Heavy rains in the interior as compared to coast, बारिश coast में ज़्यादा होगी. So the only option is one, that is A. This type of question is being regularly asked. तो ये they will give you the, you can say a statement. A statement will be asked and you need to identify that related to which climate, which biome, which forest area this characteristic is. So in 2013 a question has been asked, climate is extreme, rainfall is scanty and the people used to be nomadic herders. There can be a different area where it can come to your mind that climate is extreme. क्लाइमेट जैसे ही एक्सट्रीम होगा, पहली चीज तो इस चीज का समझिए कि ये इंटीरियर पार्ट की बात होगी. सो इंटीरियर पार्ट में कौन कौन से क्लाइमेट आ रहे हैं? साइबेरियन क्लाइमेट, स्टेपी क्लाइमेट, एज वेल एज द सवाना क्लाइमेट. बट हियर ऑल्सो यू विल हैव वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फीचर, रेनफॉल इज स्कैंटी. सो रेनफॉल कंपेरेटिवली हाई है समाना में, तो नाउ यू आर लेफ्ट विद साइबेरिया एज वेल एज स्टेपी. बट अगेन साइबेरिया में भी रेनफॉल बहुत हो रही है. सो साइबेरियन क्लाइमेट, टाइगा क्लाइमेट इज नोन फॉर वेरी हाई रेनफॉल, लीचिंग भी होती है. सो यू विल बी लेफ्ट विद स्टेपी इटसेल्फ. बट इवन वन वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फीचर और दिया गया जहां से आप कर सकते हैं, नोमैडिक हर्डर्स. सो नोमैडिक हर्डिंग इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फीचर ऑफ द सेंट्रल एशियन पीपल. So it is not in the present time period, even in from time immemorial. Most of the people that have migrated in different part of the world, specifically in India, जो हमारे बहुत सारे they have come here, they have looted, they have done all the arsoning and all those. Mostly those were the people moving out from the Central Asian steppe region. So answer will be Central Asia steppe. Consider the following statements. The winds which blow between 30 degree north to 60 degree south latitudes throughout the year are known as westerly. You need to be very careful with this type of questions. So it can be disastrous. Disastrous इसलिए होता है because you are knowing the fact, but just because you are not very much serious या you are not that much careful, उसकी वजह से अगर ऐसे क्वेश्चंस गलत हो जाते हैं तो that is very bad. So always be careful. The winds which blow between 30 to 60. तो 30 से 60, 30 to 60, yes we have the westerly. जो आप देखेंगे wind we already have discussed. So within 30 to 60 we have the westerly. But this westerly is limited to 30 degree north to 60 degree north, 30 degree south to 60 degree south. 30 degree north to 60 degree south में आपकी कई winds आ जाती हैं. So if you will go with the statement, it is asking 30 degree north to 60 degree south. So it is incorrect. The moist air masses that cause winter rains in northwestern region of India are part of westerly. As far as India is concerned, India experienced the winter rainfall. And winter rainfall जो हमारी country में हो रही, that is also referred as, specifically in this northern belt, the Delhi and all the neighboring areas, all the northeastern region, this is rainfall that happens through the western disturbances. So rainfall that is happening through the western disturbances. Now western disturbances are what? Temperate cyclone. तो western disturbances जो हमारे यहाँ पे rainfall हो रही है, that is nothing but that is associated with this westerly only. यही westerly है आपके मेडिटेरेनियन रीजन में विंटर सीजन में देयर विल बी फॉर्मेशन ऑफ टेम्परेट साइक्लोन. जो टेम्परेट साइक्लोन बनेगा दैट विल बी एसोसिएटेड विद द वेस्टर्लीज. सो यस, दिस स्टेटमेंट इज करेक्ट. सो आंसर विल बी बी. Again in 2015, similarly again they are asking a question related to the statement. Each day is more or less the same. The morning is clear and bright with a sea breeze. As the sun climbs high in the sky, heat mounts up, dark clouds form, then the rain comes with thunder and lightning, but the rain is soon over. So if you will look out this, each day is more or less the same. The morning is clear and bright with sea breeze. So the sun climbs high in the sky, heat mounts up, dark clouds form, then the rain comes with the thunder and lightning. So first of all, there are few things that you need to know. You need to recall the concept of the clouds. First of all, it is saying that the clouds are going up and there is a thundering and also there is a particularly lightning. So thundering and lightning is associated in cumulonimbus cloud. So cumulonimbus cloud is mainly possible in case of low latitude and in case of temperate cyclone. So low latitude and temperate cyclone में ही आपका बनेगा, समाना में नहीं होगा आपका. मानसून में possibility है but lesser. Mediterranean is not having that prevalent, but it is also saying each day. सो जैसे इसने ईच डे लिखा, बिकॉज ईच डे मीन्स डेली बारिश हो रही है, तो यू नीड टू जस्ट रिकॉल दैट विच ऑफ द एरिया एक्सपीरियंस थ्रू आउट द ईयर रेनफॉल. थ्रू आउट द ईयर रेनफॉल आपका हाई रेनफॉल दैट विल बी इन इक्वेटोरियल एरिया. सो विदाउट एनी डाउट यू कैन लुक आउट फॉर द इक्वेटोरियल. There are other areas also, like British climate also experience the rainfall throughout the year, but their daily rainfall is not there and most of the rainfall is temperate cyclone. तो वहां पे cumulonimbus भी होगा, cold front भी बनेंगे, hot warm front भी बनेंगे. So answer will be B, that is equatorial. Moving to next question. In the South Atlantic and Southeastern Pacific regions, in tropical latitudes, cyclone does not originate. What is the reason? So if you will look out the South Atlantic and Southeastern Pacific region, here you will find in these areas, particularly, Atlantic Ocean generally have more frequent tropical cyclone in northern. In southern Atlantic, you will have less frequency. Now the question arises, why? So the main reason, there are two reasons. First of all, the temperature is throughout the year is comparatively low. And the second is also that low pressure, calm condition is more or less near to the equator. So the low pressure zone is not going very south. As far as cyclone is concerned, the prevalent low pressure is one of the prerequisite, but prevalent low pressure simultaneously along with the prevalent low pressure, there should be a sufficient latitude. Because if the low pressure is only near to the 5 degree, 4 degree latitude, obviously the Coriolis will not be that much effective to cause the tropical cyclone. So both the regions are there, low pressure ITCZ and sea surface, but because ITCZ का रोल उतना नहीं है, so that will be the reason why sea surface temperature low will be the answer. With reference to agriculture soil, consider the following statement. A high content of organic matter in soil drastically reduces its water holding capacity. Water holding capacity will in fact increases. So first of all, water holding capacity will be, because more and more high content of organic matter means there will be very large scale weathering, more finer material. So finer material, finer particles, so the water holding capacity will become higher. So that is an incorrect statement. Soil does not play any role in the sulfur cycle. Irrigation over a period of time can contribute to the salinization of some agriculture. As far as irrigation is concerned, this question is primarily associated with soil salinization. So the moment you get to know that one is incorrect, directly you will get the answer. So this question, even if you are not very much aware, you can solve through the elimination method. Moving to the next question. Why are dewdrops not formed on a cloudy night? So this is also one of the very focus area. So this is also very focus area of UPSC. बहुत बार इससे क्वेश्चन पूछा गया है, and this question is primarily associated with a topic called as heating and cooling. We already have discussed that temperature decreases with increasing height, and the rate of temperature decrease is known as normal lapse rate. Now sometimes this general change of temperature pattern gets inverted and temperature will start increasing with increasing height, and it is referred as inversion. टेम्परेचर इन्वर्जन बहुत जगहों पे होता है. देर आर lots of area on the earth surface where temperature inversion happens. Temperature inversion happens over the plain area, inversion happens over the coastal area, temperature inversion happens over the oceanic area, temperature inversion happens over the area where there is a convergence of air in the form of air mass. So different temperature inversion is very much prevalent in the hilly area. So there are different methods of temperature inversion. In simplest method, temperature inversion is very much prevalent in cold, long winter night. So cold and long winter night, there will be more chances of the temperature inversion. Now in this condition, what will happen? The ground will loses lots of heat. So ground will loses lots of heat. So heat loss because of radiation. So ground will loses lots of heat and the ground will become very much cooler, intense cold. Now the ground will become intense cold. So it is like here you will have air is there. One more thing that you need to understand, heating and cooling, the transfer of heat in our atmosphere is mostly the convectional. So there will be convectional heating. तो convectional heating में क्या होती है? Air आपकी rise करेगी या sink करेगी. But this is a condition where there is not a convectional heat, rather the transfer of heat will be through the conduction. So transfer of heat is not through the convection, rather conduction. Now this ground has been very much cooled up. उसके साथ में जो air है, that will become very cool. And if the air is becoming very cool, ultimately what will happen? This air will become very cool. Air is becoming cool and ultimately it will reaches the saturation point. Once the saturation point will happen, obviously there will be a transformation of the moisture, condensation takes place, and because the condensation is taking place very near to the ground, the water droplet that will form, they will not be able to keep themselves suspended. So the same water droplet will form on the surface in the form of dew. तो जो आपको dew दिखती है, that is the resultant of temperature inversion. If the water droplets are capable of suspending themselves within the atmosphere, और कब होगा? When it is a large scale. So it will be like fog. So dew, fog, mist, all these are the one of the forms of the temperature inversion. So this is how the temperature inversion happens. अब सवाल क्वेश्चन उठता है कि dew कब नहीं बनेगी? So this formation of dew, or you can say temperature inversion, is associated with the loss of heat. Now loss of heat किस किस वजहों से नहीं होगा? If we are not having cold long winter night, लेकिन cold long winter night है, but still if we have the large scale clouds. Now if we have large scale clouds, so these clouds are capable of re-radiating. So whatever the radiation is going, that radiation will be re-radiated, and if the radiation is re-radiated on the earth surface, so obviously what will happen? The heat loss will not be efficient, and if the heat loss is not that much efficient, ultimately temperature inversion will not take place. So clouds, they will not absorb. So clouds absorb the radiation, that is incorrect. The earth surface would have low temperature on cloudy nights, that is incorrect. Clouds deflect the blowing wind to ground, that is incorrect. So clouds reflect back the earth radiation, that is the right answer. In case of which of the following biogeochemical cycles, the weathering of rocks is the main source of release of nutrients to enter the cycle? In the case of which of the following biogeochemical cycles, the weathering of rocks is the main source of release of nutrients to enter the cycle? As far as weathering of rocks is concerned, there are some of the it is associated with biogeochemical cycle. Some of the cycles like carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, these are the primarily the gaseous cycle. So these are associated with the gaseous cycle. One of the very important cycle that is associated is the phosphorus cycle. Phosphorus cycle in fact was very much in news because it is associated with our fertilizers. Government is trying very hard that farmers should not only use the nitrogen, and why the nitrogen based urea is used, because we have a larger scale availability. So government is trying very hard to make India self-dependent associated with the DAP and the phosphorus based fertilizers. In nature, which of the following is are most likely to be found surviving on a surface without soil? In nature, which of the following is are most likely to be found surviving on a surface without soil? As far as even if you will read the ecological succession, so that ecological succession on the earth surface begins from the bare rock. So first on the earth surface, almost you can say entire earth surface was made up of rock. Some of the places the rock depression has taken place and the rainfall then that has been in the form of ocean. So continental part, everywhere we are having the rocks. Now these rocks will undergo weathering. After the weathering, the first one that will come is the lichen and mosses. So lichen and mosses are something which will come over the rock. So without the soil, they will be able to survive. So they will be able to survive without the soil, that is lichens and mosses. Mushroom as well as fern, of course they will not be able to survive without the soil. Moving to next question, the term Levante, often heard in the news, roughly correspond to which of the following? This type of question, it has been asked in 2022. This type of question you can solve if you are not very much clear. We have a local wind and that local wind is associated with that European area, but sometime in an exam condition, it will become little bit tricky for you. As far as Levant is concerned, the meaning of the simple Levant is east. So it is an older term that is being used. So the answer will be the regions along the eastern Mediterranean. So this whole area of Israel, then you will have the Lebanon, Syria, that regions is simply referred as Levant. Comparatively, it is a tough question, or obviously as a question may, if you are not able to guess, so it is better to leave rather than guessing, because Levante अगर आप जाएंगे तो Levante, if you are able, if you have clarity about the local wind, then you can answer. But if you have not idea, local wind भी आपने नहीं पढ़ा, नहीं तैयार किया, तो obviously आपके लिए मुश्किल होगा इसको करने. Moving to the next question, consider the following statements. High clouds primarily reflect solar radiation and cool the surface of the earth. As far as the clouds are concerned, clouds, higher clouds in above atmosphere, higher clouds are specifically this particularly ice crystal like cirrus cloud. So these clouds are not that much preferable related with the solar radiation, because if they will reflect the solar radiation, so obviously the surface will not be cooled that much, because that is already efficient heat budget. Because if the clouds are there, clouds are deflecting, but also on the surface whatever the radiation is going, they are capable of re-radiating on the earth surface also. So this statement is not correct. Low clouds have a high absorption of infrared radiation emanating from earth's surface and thus causes warming effect. Low clouds absorb the heat, and more heat that is coming from the ground, because earth gets heated from the below, so it will get absorbed and it will remain in that atmosphere. So this is how the efficient warming happens. So obviously this is a right statement. So low clouds have a high absorption of infrared radiation emanating from the earth's surface. So this is heating from below. Heating from below. During a thunderstorm, the thunder in the sky is produced by meeting of cumulonimbus cloud, lightning that separate the nimbus cloud, violent upward movement of air and the water particles. As far as the thunder is concerned, thunder is associated with the cumulonimbus cloud, yes, but it is not that thunder is associated with the meeting of thunder cumulonimbus cloud. So obviously this statement is incorrect. Lightning that separate the nimbus cloud, lightning and thundering is different. So lightning is not associated with the thundering. Violent upward movement of air and water particles. So it is not the water particles. It is primarily the air that is being taken, and then the collision that is happening between the different particles, the charge that are getting charged negatively and positively. So thundering and lightning phenomena is not associated with the violent movement, upward movement. It is the air that is carrying the water. This is the moisture, and that moisture is going up, and then you will have the condensation, then first cooling. Once it cooling, then you will have the formation of the different layers. So layers will form in the form of positively charged and the negatively charged, and then you will have the formation of the lightning and also some of the collision that is happening between the particularly water droplets or the moisture. So this statement is also incorrect. So answer will be none of the above. Thunderstorm, tropical cyclone, that is also very important area. ये भी बहुत important area है जहाँ से बहुत बार question पूछे जाते हैं. In 2019, a very interesting question has been asked. In the context of which of the following do some scientists suggest the use of cirrus cloud thinning technique and the injection of sulfate aerosols into stratosphere? As far as the cirrus cloud is concerned, cirrus clouds are the high clouds. So cirrus clouds are high clouds. They are primarily made up of ice crystals. Cirrus clouds are the high clouds and they are made up of ice crystal. So the idea is, generally what happens, these ice crystals are very much associated with the absorption. So some of the radiation that is going from above, from below, they are capable of absorbing. More and more absorption, obviously they will be capable of holding heat on the surface. The whole idea of this cirrus cloud thinning is कि हम जो ice crystal है, जो cirrus cloud है, उसको break करेंगे. Breaking होगी जिससे cirrus cloud की जो efficient absorption है वो कम होगी. So obviously that the heating that is happened, the trapping of heat that is happening on the earth's surface will be lesser. Also injection of sulfate aerosol in the stratosphere, तो उससे भी we are witnessing, we are thinking, our objective is कि ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा अगर हम aerosol करेंगे तो again it's a absorption effectiveness will get decreases. So in both the cases, the idea is that less heat should be there. So ultimately we are trying to decrease the temperature, reducing the global warming. Both of these methodologies at the nascent stage. Some of the scientists are agreeing, some of the scientists are not agreeing, because there will be a viewpoint that if you will induce, so definitely it can cause the, in longer run, it can cause the ozone destruction and overall albedo. But here the answer is reducing the global warming. Moving to next question, the seasonal reversal of winds is the typical characteristic of. As far as this question is concerned, बहुत बार पूछा गया है and it's a straightforward. Whenever you will look out the basic definition of monsoon, what is monsoon? This is the standard definition of the monsoon, the seasonal reversal of winds. So seasonal reversal of the wind is simply referred as monsoon. Seasonal reversal of the wind is simply referred as monsoon. Then moving to the next, which of the following leaf modification occurs in the desert area to inhibit water losses? So in desert area, specifically if you will look out the climate, in hot desert the climate is xerophyte. So in this climate, in this area, there is a high temperature, rainfall is extremely low. So in this area, rainfall is extremely low, high temperature. So the vegetation will only survive if they will have efficient mechanism to check the water losses. Now the question arises that how they will check the water losses. So when it comes to the checking the water losses, how they used to check the water losses, they will have waxy and leathery leaves. They will also have the needle shaped leaves. Roots of the trees are very deep. So these are some of the characteristics through which they will check the water losses. So hard and waxy leaf, correct. Tiny leaves, correct. Thorns instead of leaves, that is also correct. So all the statement, that is 1, 2 and 3 is correct. Leaf litter decomposes faster than in any other biome, and as a result the soil surface is often almost bare. So by just reading this statement, you should be very much clear that of which climate this discussion is all about. Earlier also I have discussed that this is something related to equatorial rainforest. In equatorial rainforest, there will be a huge presence of the bacterial activity. Because of that, there will be a huge large scale littering, and littering will be immediately decomposes. Decomposition will be very efficient. Decomposition of the plant leaf, decomposition of the dead animals. Apart from trees, the vegetation is largely composed of plant forms that reach up to into the canopy vicariously by climbing the trees or growing as epiphytes. Epiphytes are the characteristic of only one climate, that is equatorial rainforest. Rooted on the upper branches of trees. This is the most likely description of the which climate. So particularly this is the most important characteristic of tropical rainforest. So this is the most important characteristic of tropical rainforest. Moving to the next. Which of the following adds nitrogen to the soil? Now, as far as the adding of nitrogen is concerned, excretion of urea by animals. So animal excrete the urea, through that there will be a addition of the nitrogen. Then nitrogen fixation happens through the death of vegetation. So some of the weathering, death of the vegetation, decomposition of the leaves, through that also happens. Burning of coal has no role in the nitrogen. Nitrogen is very one of the highest proportion of the nitrogen in our atmosphere, but the nitrogen will not be taken by the soil directly. That is why the fixation is required. And few soils are known for the nitrogen fixation, like the plant this pulse family. So they are referred as leguminous crops. So answer of this question will be excretion of urea, death of vegetation, that is 1 and 3. Moving to the last question. Contour bunding is a method of soil conservation used. So contour bunding is a method of soil conservation. As far as contour bunding is concerned, this contour bunding is mainly associated in case of hilly area. So contour bunding is mainly associated in the hilly area. So desert, it is not correct. Low flat plain, not correct. Scrubland, not correct. Contour bunding is mainly associated with the hilly area, and in hilly area contour bunding is being done for the soil erosion, to check the soil erosion, because in hilly area soil is already not that much efficient, soil is not that much fertile. Mountain soil is less fertile. So mountain soil is less fertile, so to check that soil losses, soil erosion, and in fact in most of the hilly area the people are performing the shifting cultivation. So in most of the hilly area soil is the people are performing the particularly shifting cultivation, and through the shifting cultivation there will be a burning of vegetation, and through that also the soil will get lost, more and more rainfall, so there will be soil erosion. So to check that soil erosion, we have this particularly contour bunding. So obviously the answer will be none of these. Alright, so that's it from related to the climate and biogeography. So one thing that you need to understand after going through this session is climate happens to be one of the very important area, and in climate all the basic concept you need to have clear, because if you will not have the clarity of the basic concept, आपके लिए आंसर करना बड़ा मुश्किल होगा, because most of the questions they are asking in case of climate happens to be very simple. बहुत कोई complicated question नहीं पूछा जाएगा, but you should have a clarity. If you are not having the clarity, तो definitely आप question को आंसर नहीं कर पाएंगे. So to just you need to have a conceptual clarity, and I am hopeful that after going through the session you must have quick revision of all the concept related to the climate.